test. Hello, Peter.
How's it going?
Good.
I'm trying to do this through Zoom. I cannot hear folks in the room. Are they online yet?
No, none of our mics are on yet. I was saving the
Okay.
mic energy.
No problem.
Oh, there. But now it's good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending. I apologize, we're don't have our agenda slide up today. My fault. We're going to start with approval of the prior meeting minutes. So
Yeah, I move to approve. I move to
I second.
approve.
I second.
okay, thank you. And then we're going to look for approval or questions on the,
Oh, I see.
thank you, Peter.
Turn your, turn,
the volume down? Can you turn the volume down, or I'm hearing an echo when we talk?
I'm trying to, it's my hearing aids that are going.
Oh, gotcha. Try testing.
Testing.
Are you connected to the Zoom?
Testing.
Is this you?
Yes, it should be disconnected now. I turned it.
Okay, try again.
Testing. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to look for approval or questions from the team on the prior month's financial statements.
I move to approve financial statements from last month.
and I second.
All in,
It's just
everybody?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we're going to do our liaison update with Courtney.
Thanks, Carol. The board met last Thursday to look at the budget and to make some recommendations, or at least some initial recommendations for dues for the coming year, for 2025. We also agreed that we would have an open budget meeting not this week, but the following week. And I believe that has been set up, but we haven't sent everything out on the details on that. So look for that coming in your emails. Other than that, there isn't a lot that we discussed that we won't be discussing in the open session. So that is my report.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our general manager update. Anything, Nicole?
Didn't take my own advice to turn back on the mic. So to just echo Courtney's sentiments, yeah, we had a meeting last week to try to finalize the budget. We're going to have a open meeting. It is scheduled for Tuesday at 5 o'clock, I believe, if I had my dates correctly. We're going to have an open meeting for the budget so that we can review the budget in front of everybody as per civil code, but then also approve it in a timely manner so that everybody has time to know what the dues are and understand what the impact's going to be for 2025. It's full speed ahead right now for budgets. So that's kind of everything that we're doing is budgets, budgets, and reserve study, and then more budgets. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the budget review for the Finance Committee. And we're going to be reviewing the budget that the Finance Committee has put together for the purposes of the 2025 year for the board to review. And so we'll be going over it here first, and then it will move on to the board. And
I got booted out.
did you?
I didn't do it.
Just give us a moment.
For those waiting on Zoom, we're just waiting for another member of the Finance Committee to join the Zoom so that they can share their screen so that you can see the slides that they talk about. Give us 1 second. Yeah. We can just stare deeply into each other's eyes.
Is there a code to sign into this thing?
Into the meeting, it should, if you have the link, no. Do you want to just go to zoom.com and just do it by meeting ID and password, and I'll just go
Yeah.
get it for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just got booted out.
Mine's,
Response time is really low.
yeah,
for
mine has
LZ.
been dropping like crazy today and on my own Wi-Fi. So, yeah, don't know. That was just me.
Really handy that we put it in our newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go get it there.
Okay, so,
Let me know when you're ready for the meeting ID.
wait, okay, so where do we go ahead and find the meeting?
Go ahead and join in the corner right there. There you go. It's always when someone's staring at it, right? When it goes slow. Nope.
Okay, join.
Meeting ID,
Yeah.
and so it's gonna be 897-6767.
Hold on, 897
67 67 3487. Okay, try it. If it asks you for a password, let's see. Oh, and then the password is 001131.
Do you have to let him in?
Huh?
Do you have to let him in?
I shouldn't have to. No, he's in there now.
Okay, so,
And now you should be able to share your PowerPoint. There you go. Oh, no, you got to go back to actually share it. So go to Zoom. And then hit where it's PowerPoint right there, that picture of the PowerPoint. Yeah. There you go. And then now you should be able to hit the slideshow and it should go.
Okay, everyone, thank you for waiting. And I think technology is with us now.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. Can everybody hear me all right? Let's go through. Yeah, thanks, everybody, for your time and patience this afternoon. And for those on the Zoom call, thanks a lot for taking the time out of your busy schedules. What we're going to present today is the Finance Committee's recommendations to the board going forward for the 2025 dues. And we're going to do a quick dive into what's currently going on with our operating and reserves. It just kind of give everybody a level set here. Right now, our total dues is $620 a month, right? And it's allocated into two buckets, operating budget and our reserve budget. Right now, that $620 a month, $285 go into the operating budget. And for those, just to kind of give a sense and flavor of operating budget, that is basically the expenses that keep the lights on in the association. It's the utilities, it's essentially keeping the pool looking nice, it's the mow and blow, it's the first service contract, et cetera. So it keeps the lights on here in the room. That's our operating budget. The reserve budget I like to think about is that's our savings account, right? That's what we all put away every month to repair our homes, to put a new roof on it, to repair the siding, to repair the fences, also to repair the roofs when those come due again. So again, that's our savings account, and our operating budget basically puts food on the table. Do a quick dive here in terms of just looking at our operating budget from 2024 versus 2025. From a sense of color, 2025 is what we're projecting for costs in the blue bar, and then the orange bar is what we're looking at, what we've done in 2024. And as you can see, in most cases, everything's staying pretty static. We've seen a very slight increase in utilities. Land maintenance is pretty much staying the same. Common areas is going up a bit. Management on-site administration is going up a couple of bucks. Our flood insurance is staying the same, but as everybody is probably already aware, and all of us seen the emails and probably talks amongst yourself, we've seen a big increase in our hazard property and liability, and that's going up $72 a month, or if looking at percentage standpoints, it's 248%. So that's why the little sad face. So the Finance Committee over the last couple of months have taken a deep dive in looking at our operating and reserve budgets were reviewed. In terms of the operating budget, we looked at a couple areas. Of course, we looked at flood, and we also looked at the liability, property, and hazard insurance. We spent quite a bit of time looking at a reserve budget. So we looked at the three high-level accounts in that particular area: irrigation valves, which is now called siding remediation. We looked at irrigation. We looked at specifically repairs, controller stations, and miscellaneous landscape drains. And then also in terms of the trees, we looked at tree pruning and tree removal. So what I'm going to do next is kind of look at the three major areas on the reserve side and look at what our costs have been, what our costs are projected to be, and what our recommendations going forward for 2025 and future years to the board in order to make up this deficit for our insurance. So our first area is siding remediation, and let's do some definition here so we're all on the same page. Siding remediation is basically the account that is used for the plant tear out and replacement during siding replacement and painting cycle. So for those of you who lived in Zone 4, experienced this already. For those of you who are currently living in Zone 2 on the even side of Vanderbilt, you've probably seen all that work completed. And now for those of you who are working or you're living in the even side of Elmhurst, that work is beginning now as well. Siding remediation, again, for the sense of clarity, is not used for homeowner maintenance or replacements for landscape requests. You know, my bush is dead, I need a new bush, et cetera. That is entirely into a different area. So just to make sure we keep everything straight and our definitions cool, we're just talking about the plant tear outs associated with the painting cycle. So right now, for 25 going forward at 25, 6, 7, 8, and 9, right now, the reserve study has allocated almost pretty close to over $500,000 over the next 2 years And it goes down to $400,000 in those neighborhood for the subsequent three. We are forecasting a spend in this particular areas of 140,000 for over 3 years. And taking the difference between 543, 250 and 140 will give us a savings of $403,000. To give a sense of flavor where we are right now for the year to date as of October 4th of 2025, our year-to-date spend is $355,680. So just under $356,000 bucks. Going to go on to the next section right now, which is irrigation. Again, we talked about earlier on the previous 2 slides prior that we looked at irrigation repairs, control stations, and landscape drains. Again, the money using the same logic and the same format that we talked about in the previous slide. The 115,000 is and subsequent line items, and also the 36,400 are money that's been put aside in the reserve study. Our year-to-date spend down there in the bottom is 177,710, and we are recommending forecasted spend over 25 and 26 $100,000 for the 2 following years. And the last area is trees. I know trees is a big concern for Nepenthe. It does a lot for our whole appearance and aesthetics of this neighborhood. It gives us a lot of shade during the July when it was over 110 degrees some days. Again, 3 separate buckets there, 2 separate buckets, tree pruning and tree removal, the amount of money that's been allocated in our reserve study. Also, our year-to-date spend is $300,000 to date. A lot of, as you've probably been aware in your particular zone, a lot of tree pruning has been going on. It's been a lot of work has been done as well as from the landscape committee to identify tree pruning and working with the arborists, et cetera. We are recommending in 2025 to bring that down to 275. Again, a lot of work has already been done in the subsequent years to $200,000 each. So again, that's our whole tree overview. And the next slide, what we're going to do is essentially go ahead and summarize what we're doing here. Okay, so what this slide essentially takes, it takes the savings from each of those particular areas that we just discussed in the previous 3 slides, summarizes it here. And for 2025, our targeted savings is just a tad over $600,000. These next line items that follow that table is the reserve component reduction in homeowners per month. That $601,000 brings it down to $84.99 for each and every one of us in terms of the reserve contribution. If you remember on the slides that we talked about all the expenses, operating expenses that we are incurring, including insurance, we had an $84 expense to overcome. So with the savings that we're recommending, we're essentially going to break even and essentially address the insurance overage for 2025. So again, we examined this quite thoroughly. We question each other time and time again. Are we on the right track? Does this look good? Are we confident? And the answer to that is yes. So let's go back forward and say, okay, what if we didn't do anything? What if we just sat there and, we just clapped our hands and said, well, just take the increase and let's go home and have dinner and we're done. Right now, based on the budget and the reserve studies, et cetera, and the increase in our insurance, we would go from $620 to $719 a month, not just below $100, or somewhere we're looking at approximately 16% increase. The finance committee felt, and that's a pretty big haircut for everybody on their dues increase. I think everybody in this room has probably experienced an increase in our auto insurance rates this year. I mean, I have, and it's been a big hit for me as well. And so that's why we were very diligent in looking and to be very judicious and to be able to steward our resources in such a way that we were able to minimize any impact on dues for 2025. It's not going to be an easy road. What we want to do, again, our recommendations are to adopt the reserve savings targets that we identified in the slide deck today. Dues to remain at $620 a month. And the next area I think is utmost important for everybody in this community is to essentially develop an insurance review process. I know we look at flood insurance coverage. I know there's a lot of pros and cons on insurance coverage, a lot of emotional issues here as well. However, I think times have come to our doorstep and we have to really take a deep dive into this. What would it look like if we dropped insurance coverage on a blanket basis and just went to individual policies if that's what the homeowner wanted to do? Also consider our blanket insurance policy, looking at individual policies versus individual condominium policies. Again, this is not an easy task. It's a heavy lift going forward. It's not a one and done that we can just sit there and snap our fingers and get it done. There's a lot of work that needs to be accomplished here. I think number one, we really have to understand what is currently going on in the insurance marketplace. What are the trends looking like? And essentially engage our folks from the insurance committee as well as any other individual here in the community that has insurance experience to come up with some recommendations for us. I think in order for this to really be successful, a couple of things have to happen. Number one, if we were to drop the blanket coverage and go to individual policies, it would have to satisfy two requirements. It'd have to be budget neutral for us, it's not going to cost us anymore. And at the same time, we're not losing anything in terms of coverage, okay? So there's some challenges there. We have to recognize that. In addition to the folks that have a common wall, I mean, how do we address that? The other thing is, do we have to set up additional internal infrastructure to manage this whole thing? And I know Nicole is probably cringing at that idea because, you know, how are we going to manage certificates of coverage? What happens if I don't turn mine in? It's not an easy task to really delve into. But again, understanding where the market trends in insurance going forward is a big step. We need to understand if sometimes some of these large insurance carriers are basically going to tell condominiums associations or large developments like Campus Commons and as well as Nepenthe, we're done with you guys. We're not going to do it. You're on your own. And I think in order to get ahead of the game, to have our facts and have our ducks in order is important for us to look at in 2025. So again, some of the issues that we talked about today and what are really the critical success factors going forward and what do we need to do in order to be successful? It involves diligent operating and reserve spending, monitoring all categories. We feel that there needs to be a direct line of connection with the landscape committee to monitor the expenses that we identified as savings targets. So it includes landscaping, siding, painting, plant remediation, and also operations. Accurate reserve spending variance tracking. This something we need to do. Well, I shouldn't say need, something we're required to do on a monthly basis. Again, we want to make sure we stay on track and keep the train running on a straight road here. The other issue that would be very important here as well is working with our vendors to assure that we're getting accurate invoices every month on at least X amount of days after the work is completed, so we can get that information to Nicole and her team to get that information tracked and posted and allocated to the right budget bucket. And also throughout the year, we want to be able to identify additional spending opportunities without sacrificing current appearance and aesthetics. And again, this is an important point, everybody. We all enjoy owning and living in this community. We've seen very good appreciation on our home values over the last 10 years, et cetera. We want to maintain that. And the Finance Committee was very sensitive to that in terms of making these recommendations as well. Also, what's going to be key, what's going to be very important is to make sure that we keep track of this information. And if we have to pivot during the year, we have to pivot during the year. So again, these are the success factors we need to move forward and to be successful. And I'm going to close this last slide here that is being very difficult. Yeah, I just lost, it looks like I just lost connection. So the last slide is basically a thank you, it's basically a thank you slide. And it has to show, it shows a little picture of a fork in the road. Do we go left or do we go right? And I think we're at that crossroads right now, everybody. We could take the road, the easiest road, and just take the dues increase, and again, call it a day and go home and have dinner. And we don't feel that's really sustainable going forward. Or we could take the bold road, make these bold recommendations, kind of keep our nose to the grindstone and keep our budget on track. And keep the delivers moving and to achieve those targets to keep our dues in line. Don't know what 2026 looks like. I mean, that's another year from now. Hopefully next year when we're giving this presentation, we're in a space where we have a lot more knowledge, a lot more information, and we can make some additional decisions to keep our dues in line and keep our community sustainable. So thank you very much for your time and effort this evening. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. Okay. Not yet. So I think our deliverable from this meeting is sending this to the board. And I notice board members are listening. And we will be asking them to take a look at it and make their decisions. And then as Courtney mentioned earlier, they'll be having a meeting in a few days down the road towards the end of October to talk about the budget and the budget process from their perspective and to finalize what they're looking at. And there will be plenty of opportunity, I'm sure, during that meeting for questions from homeowners. And so that's our deliverable. So are there homeowners' comments? Anything from the room? Kathy, I see your hand up.
I don't know how to work this.
I think it's on. I think I see a
I think
green
so.
light.
I'm Kathy Blattner.
So speak right into it, sorry.
Kathy Blattner. And the question I have, you were talking about reducing some of the cuts, or reducing some of the amounts that are going in there.
Yes.
I live in phase 3 of the siding and painting. Are those cuts going to impact us in any way?
I
As
think-
far as the landscaping and the siding reparation or whatever it was called? That's my question.
I think we've looked long and hard at keeping the impact to our landscape and our remediation project and the siding project in general at a minimum. So going forward, I don't think you'll see any reduced aesthetic in our community.
Everyone's aesthetics are a little different. I'm asking, is there going to be a difference from phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 in the amount of money that there will be available for the siding reparations for landscape?
Okay. So on the siding project itself, no. On the landscape remediation due to the siding project, we may see a little bit less of tear out, scorch earth, whatever you want to call it. I think there's a happy medium there. So tearing out, replanting, new irrigation. So I think that you'll see a little bit less than that. My guess is yes. Yes. Yeah, Peter? Thanks, Kathy.
Peter Klein, Swarthmore. You may have already said it, I'm operating with half an ear here, but I hear the numbers changing significantly on something called siding, which I assume means just that part of our expenditures which go into removing plants during the siding project. It has nothing to
Correct,
do
you're
with the
absolutely
cost of
right.
siding. What I didn't hear, because that ear is not working, I guess, is how can that be accomplished? In other words, what estimates do we have? I know they're just going to be like this kind of estimates to get to that kind of number, because I believe the board's going to want to know operationally, what are we going to tell people to expect? Or, so are there, if there are any estimates of how we got that savings, I would appreciate hearing those. As I think the
Yes,
board would.
thank you for your question. I think we've noticed that originally in Zone 3, when the siding project happened, there was no landscape remediation done whatsoever in 92 homes. And then when we got to Zone 4, there was a huge amount of landscape remediation done. And then as we've gone into phase 2 along Vanderbilt and the beginning of Elmhurst, you may have noticed that there's less landscape remediation going on relative to the siding project. So yes, so you've seen that change already.
So we do have a number then, this is how much.
Yes,
Extra.
yes. We've been through,
Planning on not spending.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your?
I think I'm beginning to see the picture, but I'm still missing part of it. So if we know that we've been spending so much extra for this remediation over the last year or two, what percentage reduction is this savings that we're anticipating for the future? I
I'm
mean,
sorry, I don't have a percentage in front of me right now. I do not have a percentage in front of me right now. But John showed the slides showing the dollar amounts.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not pressing for an answer. I'm just thinking that to visualize what the impact would be,
Good
if
point.
we knew what the percentage of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe we should send that on to the board with this slide set. I appreciate your question, your comment. Don?
Are you projecting a continuing cost overrun on the siding work itself, just the siding work itself?
Okay, so I'm sorry. So Dawn's question was, are we considering the potential of an increase in what we've seen this year as an increase in the siding project itself? Yes, and we have that budgeted. We've gone over it with Paul Reeves. We've gone over it with First Service and with the board. And so we do have that already baked in.
Second question, is there any chance that the water meter conversion will be effectuated in 2025?
Go ahead, Nicole.
So the water meters are included in 2025 and they're included in the budget with minimal impact. So we'll explain more as we go into, when we go into that budget meeting. But we factored in the revenue for the water meters to help offset the increase. Correct. January 1. That's going to be, yeah, it's already factored in. Yep. You won't even have one for water. So whatever bill you get from the city won't include water anymore. I don't know how City of Sacramento is set up. So yeah, it just wouldn't include water. Mm-hmm.
You're exactly right, Don. Yeah, thank you. So yes, we've dug and dug and dug and tried to look at everything everywhere.
And then to clarify too, none of our budgets that we've have different versions of budgets. None of them exceed the Davis Sterling requirement of the 20%. We can't go past that 20%. Yeah.
Or that the bump that we would have to pay for the water meter conversion would then run into the annual increase.
Yeah. And that was one of my worries too. So don't worry. We're not even close to that 20% with that. Yeah. Sorry, just wanted to clarify.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Nicole. Any questions on the Zoom? Any hands up? Don't see anything. Anything else in the room? Okay. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your attendance and your questions and your input. Meeting is adjourned.